you can see there's an open in early position, and now I basically have to make a decision on whether to shove. I do open my poker tracker. I apologize. Some of the information you see, some you don't on the poker tracker information, but I remember this stuff pretty closely. This guy's PT information, he was in like an 18-13, I believe, and he was pretty tight. The problem is that he's short, and it doesn't seem like he's going to fold a wide range of hands if I shove. However, in my opinion, I think pocket nines here is just too strong to fold. So rather than fold, I mean, I can't call, obviously. It's just not getting close to the right odds to set mine. I choose to jam, basically because, like I said, I'm not playing to have 17 and a half big blinds, and I feel like, I could have him crush, and he's probably going to call. So hopefully I'm flipping or crushing, and not crushed. However, we're not going to find out. You can see I just popped over there and I'm 44.56. So I believe he ends up folding, and I'm just going to make sure as he goes along. But again, I think it's a pretty marginal spot. I mean, it's not a great spot to be in, but now I'm at 20 big blinds. It's a big deal. So now you can see I'm in the big blind with King 10. The guy who opens is a 20-13. I have 686 hands on him, which is a lot of hands. And this isn't a spot I used to actually always fold this. I would never call, just because, it just seemed terrible. I have King 10, who knows. But recently, in the past probably 4 or 5 months, I've actually started calling more often. Basically because now it's a three-way pot. That's one reason for calling. The other reason is, it's also, I'm getting such good odds, it's like 2,000 into 13,000. And I feel like I can play post flop really, really well. So I feel like I can, usually get away from trouble. And it's not a great flop for me. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's not a great flop because I can't really fold now because I flop top pair. But again, it's a three-way pot. So typically if a villain's going to bet, they're going to have something. They're not often going to bluff at this kind of board. They have to be pretty advanced to bluff this board. So when the villain bets, I basically have a really tough decision. And I know I said villain has to bet, but if you can see the screen, I basically chose there. That's the one I'm looking for. So you can see on the flop, the number I'm looking for is right here, the continuation bet. This guy continuation bets 97% of his hands when he raises pre, and that's a big sample for me to have 34 hands on someone. So after I saw that, I'm like, well, this guy c-bets 97% of his hands. He can have anything here. Really, anything he raises with, he's going to have. And only a small portion of that's going to be beating me here. So I chose to call because basically I think he's not going to bluff very often after this. And like I said, I chose to call just because I don't think he's going to bluff very often. And if he does, typically I'm still going to have him, but I just think he's going to c-bet a lot of pots and then just keep going. Obviously, if he bets a turn, I'm going to have a big decision to make, but, I left it at that. The next hand is a small blind hand, and I think there's been some debate about this, about folding the small blind, and you can see it's like 1,000 into 7,000 for me to call here. And I just, a hand like 8-7 off is a pretty easy hand to play. I don't believe in folding here, and I think a lot of people advocate you don't have a very good hand, you should fold when you're in the small blind. But I think, when you're, I have 30 big blinds at this point, I think it's okay to call. And you can see the flop now is 9-7-4 rainbow, so it's a pretty decent flop for me. The UTG, the limper is usually the one who's going to bet. Now, typically, if he bets here, I'm going to fold. Because I just don't want to get into this weird situation where I'm check calling. Now, if deuce hits the turn, it's a pretty good card for me. And so I chose to lead out because I just, it's to protect my hand a bit and to get some value maybe from ace high. Now, when the river hits, this is basically what happens. So now I got to think. What's the guy calling? What's the Muck Bruce calling the tournament? It could be a deuce. It's not going to be a 9 often, but it might be. I mean, he could have a 9. It could be a 4. It could be something like 5-6 or 8-10. Now he's in the big blind. It could be anything. It could be 5-6, 8-10. Like I said, it could be 3-5. All kinds of different combinations of straight draws. Pairs, he could have a king 2, and he thinks it might be good. Chances are he's got some kind of pair. When the river hits a 9 of clubs on the board on the river, I just really can't see him betting worse very often here.